good morning. Welcome back to policy. It's been May since we've met as a committee. So we will get started. We have 3 policies to review today. The first one is policy 343, paid holidays. Mrs. Hobbs, would you like to address that before we get started?
Sure. So back when Dr. Bell was here, we had a support forum, and there was some concern about the paid holidays that we just give our school year staff and folks compared to what the 12-month staff. So at that point, we relooked and we did a survey to see what other districts were doing. So we're asking to add some paid holidays to our support staff that are school term, and those are outlined. But it's also just updating it to include that new support cabinet level that has been board approved, that we have the central administrative folks that are now moved into that as of July 1. So that was the reason behind bringing this change to the board, to the policy board.
Okay, thank you. As we get down through this, we normally used to go down through each section of this. Do any of you have any questions about this policy?
I didn't have any particular questions about this one.
Okay, the only thing I asked about, which just to make consistent with previous policies over the last several years, is if you go to page 2 of this document, oh no, I have to try to find it. In the paragraph that starts, it's below the red. See where it says, in the event a holiday is used. Okay, there's a pronoun selection there of his, her supervisor, and I would say 5 years ago we started changing those to simply their and eliminated the his, her. So I'm only suggesting that to make it consistent with everything else that we've been editing. Do you see where it's at? Okay, it's just that English teacher part of me. Okay, so if
Wait, can I interject something?
Sure.
Is there a way just to make it plural? Rather than use their for one person, which is grammatically incorrect.
I realize it's grammatically incorrect, but it's what's been used.
But shouldn't we be modeling correct grammar in an educational setting?
We could change it to their respective supervisors. That would solve the problem.
Or just make it employees. It is necessary for employees to work on it. If it is necessary for employees to work on these holidays, the holiday becomes a floating holiday to be used with the permission of their supervisor. That's grammatically correct and isn't as cumbersome as his or her. I agree that his, her can be cumbersome, but why not just use correct grammar?
Any suggestions other to support what Mrs. Jalal is saying?
So she's just saying
Hi,
change.
this is Lawrence speaking.
Go
I
ahead.
certainly agree with what we just heard from Ms. Jalal, and I would be delighted if we could be right there grammatically correct in all of our written materials.
So she's just saying change the word employee to employees.
And stick with there.
Yeah, because it does say down here employees on unpaid leave, because that's plural. So we could just do that. Just change employee to employees with the permission of their supervisor.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
How about the rest of you?
It's fine.
Okay. That's an easy fix. Anything else, Mrs. Jalal?
That's all, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is policy 702.2, naming opportunities. An update in conjunction with the Cantor Funds Foundation becoming a 501c3. So, Mrs. Hobbs, I'll turn this one back over to you as well.
Excuse me, Mrs. Kraus. I just need to confirm for the policy that we just talked about on the employees. We have approval to move it to first read?
I would say yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I just wanted to confirm.
No, that's fine. I need you all there to keep straight. So, okay, so I'll throw it back to you for 702.2.
So this also came up because this fits in with the 10-year cycle of looking at the policies, also in regards to future naming opportunities that may be happening with an upcoming building project that we are still working on and bringing before the board. So it's sort of meshed together. I did reach out to other districts in trying to look what they have, also put it out to my PASBO group, which is statewide, to get some ideas what they had in policy, so that's why you're gonna see a lot of reds. Also, as Mrs. Kraus mentioned, making sure that we're referencing the Cantor Foundation now, Cantor Fund, so there was some wordsmithing as well throughout the policy. So that's why you may see more red than usual.
Okay, again, just before we start going through this, I did see down under guidelines, that was the one place Cantor Educational Fund needs to be changed to foundation. Courtney, did you see that? It's at the end of the first paragraph. Under, see where it says request for at the opening paragraph? Right there. I did have a couple questions. I'm not sure. We have current locations in the building that are named already for donors. So I guess my question is, will those remain in place? Whatever, is it, whatever is there, is it grandfathered to stay there?
Yes. And, I know you've been part of the conversations on the other side as we're moving forward with the, talking about the project. Yes, so I would say anything that is currently named would be grandfathered in. I know there was some conversation about like Musselman Stadium, like how does that, if we're still looking for a document on that as well, but I would at this point assume that they're grandfathered.
I would think so.
Okay, and as I was looking at this, the decision for naming is with the board and administration with suggestions from the Cantor Foundation.
Correct, yes,
Correct.
the board still has that ultimate, I think it comes as a recommendation from the superintendent to the board, so the board still would have that authority in the overall naming.
So as we look at this, I hate to just say, does anybody have questions? So I guess we need to look over each section at least briefly if you have concerns. Any concerns about the authority that it's being given to the district for facilities or areas of the district?
The authority here, it's the wording that I was struggling with. It says it's a matter of great importance and with consistency with the district's mission. I was gonna say, with great importance and in consistency with the district's mission.
How about
Oh,
and
and with
How about
doesn't-
and
yeah.
consistent?
That's fine.
And consistent with.
That
Instead of
makes more sense to me,
consistency.
And with.
And consistent.
That's under authority.
Just right, consistent.
Okay?
Mhm.
Any other discussion about authority? Underneath that, definitions have been added to identify what facilities means here. It can mean a school building, a portion of a building, as we have here in the Learning Commons and the gyms and the music wings, a school district athletic field or facility, and number 4, other areas of the school district property. Under guidelines, the one question I had in number 6, as I was reading this, it talked about specific areas and it had pool listed there. And my question is, do we want to include pool, because that is not something we have here? we adding what we don't have? Or do we wait and revise that if that ever happens? Do we eliminate pool or keep it?
I would be in favor of eliminating it if it's something that we don't have. Because like you said, if ever there was a pool built, it could always be addressed then.
Anybody else?
You could just take out the, and then that would include everything. Because when you use the, it like indicates that it's already there. So, but including but not limited to auditorium, gymnasium, pool, cafeteria, and outdoor facilities, etc. But I'm fine with taking out pool as well, but then in the event that we would create a pool, it's already there. But I'm fine with whatever anybody wants to go with.
Can we remove it?
It's fine with
Yeah.
me.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so as we look at the rest of these guidelines, have you all had a chance to review these? Do you have any questions about them?
I had a question about 5, and again, it's just wording. And it says, will require the full financial payment of the actual naming opportunity associated costs. So are we saying the associated costs of the naming opportunity? It says financial payment of the actual naming opportunity associated costs.
So are you saying, I guess I'm asking, it's the actual
It doesn't-
naming opportunity, naming it or constructing it?
That's what I'm asking, like the wording is just kind of confusing to me. Are you talking about the costs associated with the naming opportunity? Or are we talking about other costs?
Yeah, it sounds like you're buying the naming opportunity.
Right. It's just the wording there is a little off.
And
The syntax.
Neil, can you address that at all? Shelley?
So naming rights would be whatever it is to build that item, facility, whatever.
So we're saying
And-
there's costs associated with the naming opportunity.
Yes.
So we just say financial payment of the associated costs related to the naming opportunity?
Yeah, because I think with the the guidelines that are attached, that's where we have more of the flexibility to state what those costs are.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that.
It's just how my brain.
So I'm just trying to make sure I know what you're saying. So in other words, I see in number 5, if the opportunity or the construction of the project is less than $50,000, that's required as full payment. Number 6 is saying if the project exceeds $50,000, the project, which would include the construction as well as anything connected with branding.
Right.
Okay.
What she said about the-
Any other
So,
questions about that?
yeah, so,
While we're looking at guidelines, then,
right after
yes, this came
opportunity,
out today.
we can put
Did you all get this?
I'm sorry, and costs.
Administrative
Associated
guidelines
costs
for policy, this is one that
It's
was,
attached to an agenda
The
manager.
actual naming
Okay.
opportunity.
all right,
As defined by
did you all have a chance to look at the administrative
No,
guidelines?
we're removing.
702.
So financial payment of the associated costs as.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
It's only.
I think from what I looked at it, it's basically giving an estimate about what the project would cost. Is that right, Mrs. Hobbs?
Yes. Once again, the admin guidelines are not technically like board approved.
Part
They
of the
do allow
policy.
some flexibility as we're moving through different projects to create new administrative guidelines.
Okay.
So it has the same language there under background. Naming opportunity associated.
I don't mean to be pedantic, but maybe we just need to define what a naming opportunity is. Like a naming opportunity is the construction of a facility with which the name is attached. Like usually a legal document would define these kind of terms that are esoteric. So A naming opportunity is what?
I wasn't part of these discussions.
Or, I mean, you're right, I mean, it's not necessarily defined
So
No.
Ms.
anymore. Naming the facility.
Ms. Jalal, are you mentioning or referencing or suggesting that we should add that definition underneath the definitions of that naming opportunity?
Yeah, or just on the document somewhere, if you think it's appropriate. I think it would clear up the confusion, because in the other document we looked at, it looks like you're buying a naming opportunity and not financing a facility.
Well, the bulleted
Construction
items,
of it.
so, yeah, the bulleted items are there to indicate, things that you could potentially name, in the AR guidelines, as well as the actual policy itself under number 6,
If you think it's clear, it's fine with me, but
Got a lot of wait time here.
Well, I guess if I understand, Mr. Lott, I think you're doing both. You're buying the naming opportunity, but you're funding that project. So you're doing, it's both. Like a portion of a school building, I'm funding a portion of that building, but I'm buying the naming rights also. Like I'm gonna put a name associated. So I think it's both, maybe. So I don't know if we need.
yeah,
I don't know if we need.
I've
to
read a
define
lot
it.
of legal documents just as part of my job as a proofreader, and they always have definitions whenever that, like, said person, defined by this. So like a naming opportunity would be defined as any facility, the financing of the construction of any facility more than 10,000 or however many, like this, like we know what a naming opportunity is.
Maybe what we can do is table this one till next month and give the committee time to come up with a definition, since we are struggling with it right now.
So I'm kind of curious, just for clarity, can you just explain your thinking a little bit more? I'm just kind of curious too, because like to Mr. Weibel's point, like essentially, like if someone's willing to donate $1 million, like they have an opportunity to, name a facility or a stadium or whatever the case might be. So like I guess I'm just seeking clarity on what you're seeking clarity for.
Well, is there a minimum or a maximum of a project that would require someone's name? Or could anyone, like, is there a project, for $20 and I could get my name attached to it? Or it's only above a certain amount of, other parameters, in other words?
Well, I think that's what's being stated in 5, is
5
if
and
it's
6, right.
less than 50,000, you would have to finance the whole project, if I'm understanding that correctly, in order to have the ability or the right to name that. If it's over 50,000, you have to fund 50%.
Is there a minimum though? Because like she said, if I'm gonna give,
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think to address Ms. Jalal's question is, that's where the
Definition.
regulations come in. When the attachment, we have it showing, like, if someone would donate 15,000, that could be a naming right and or plaque. So I think in the AR is where, because it's gonna change by project. I mean, if it's a smaller project, it may be something of $100 or something like that. I think, once again, that's where the guidelines allow the flexibility. As we move through projects, we would be changing the ARs.
And I think in some of those cases too, and I know that all of you have seen it before, probably, like even like a 5K race. There's a whole list of people's names on the back of the T-shirt because they've contributed maybe $100 or something. And I've seen it too in districts too, where a list of names, and then there's like gold, silver, bronze, like depending on the amount of money you donated. So it wasn't like they had exclusive naming rights because they gave $100, but they contributed $100 to or towards this,
So I put out a suggestion that we table this to have the committee come up with a definition for naming rights, if the committee wants.
I appreciate that, Madam Chairperson, but if it's clear to everyone else, I'm not trying to be difficult. You don't have to table it. If it's clear and everyone thinks this is a totally normal thing, then go. I mean, I'm just not used to hearing this language, but that's just me.
Mrs. Kraus, is there anything else that would be need to be changed in the policy? If we would work on that definition, could we share that with the policy committee and
Sure.
potentially move that to first read?
Sure.
Unless there's any other major changes to this policy?
Well, at this point, let's just look at the last 2 pages, so we know. I did want to ask, again, back to the administrative guidelines. I just want to be sure, as I look at the financial donation and naming right in years, it's indicating, I'm assuming that if I donated X amount of dollars, that I would have the naming rights for 20 years, and then it would be retired. Is that correct?
That is
So
correct.
I just want to be sure that the parts of our facility that are already named are not part of this, that they will stay.
And would you prefer, like, if we add in one of the sections, naming rights are grandfathered as of this date?
I think that would be helpful.
Because you could probably add it here. I mean, you're saying here.
When you
these-
say here, could you
I'm
tell me
sorry,
where?
under
I'm sorry.
under the guidelines, sorry. You can't see where I'm pointing, right?
can't,
Under the guidelines, where it says, these guidelines shall apply upon the effective date of board approval, nothing contained in this policy shall alter in any way the previous naming of facilities or areas prior to the implementation date.
Okay.
Yes, we already have that
Right.
suggested, right? So that should
Yes.
cover,
That should cover what
Yes.
you're asking.
Okay.
Thank
Sorry.
you. No,
No, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Go
Excuse
ahead.
me, I'm struggling with even the 20-year thing, and Musselman Stadium comes to mind. I feel like we would have the biggest uproar in the world if we tried to rename our football stadium. Oh, boy.
Yes, we need.
That's a new one.
They're working on it. It should be in test mode right now. Let me make a phone call. This was
Okay.
planned.
What's going on?
Fire alarm.
This is Lauren. I cannot hear what's going on. Perhaps we've lost audio.
There's Lauren, can you hear me?
Mrs. Jalal had a comment for you.
I heard it, thank you.
Okay.
Ms.
Thank
Kraus,
you.
we're back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's take a look at certain advertising prohibited, which is all in red, following the guidelines. And do you have any comments or changes for that section? Items 1 to 11.
So under the certain advertising prohibited, the second paragraph there, I think it should be appropriate for school-age children, not for
Yep.
school-age children. And I think that's someplace else as well. That's on the last page under number 5 as well, if you change that to for school-age children.
I'm sorry, Trish, where are you?
Sorry, I'm on, if you go to certain advertising prohibited, it's right under number 13 on page 3.
Five?
Shall not be disruptive or jeopardize unit 4. Gotcha, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's in the
Underneath five,
paragraph.
underneath
For
five.
school-age
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna five, I'm
paragraph.
like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Got it, all right.
I was looking at number 5.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too. I was like, it's fine, she said five.
I had asked after items 1 to 11, the next statement is, a sponsor may be permitted to advertise or engage in promotional activity on school district property. I had a question about what that meant in terms of advertising. Mrs. Hobbs, can you or Mr. Weigel address that?
As I shared with Mrs. Kraus, I viewed it as, say, Kelly Education has a booth at the football game. They're advertising for Kelly Education to gain employees that would work within the district. Or Wellspan would be having promotional information out there. As far as how that, did I answer that? I'm just looking back from my other notes. That's a sort of promotional, it's not like, it would be our affiliates that we're already working with.
I've seen others too, Ms. Kraus, where folks have put like, depending on the, who make larger donations, put maybe like on the baseball fence, like a vinyl banner or something, not like taking up the whole banner, but like something, if there was multiple people that made larger chunks, I mean, I've seen that as like an advertisement.
We basically have donors putting those signs up down there now.
I was thinking though, it should say, as the parties may agree and be approved by the superintendent. Because it just says may agree and approved.
Where are you?
Same place you just were.
Same place it was. Can you say that again, please?
It says, as the parties may agree and approved by. I think it just needs to be agree and be approved by the superintendent or designee.
So add B,
Yes.
as the parties may agree and be.
Let's look at first.
Number 11,
Okay,
underneath that paragraph.
got it.
Okay, that gets us to the delegation of responsibility.
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes?
The last paragraph prior to the delegation of responsibility.
Yes.
I would like to wordsmith it a little bit, that last paragraph, removing about the scholarship agreement, because we don't have that. So if we could have it read, no sponsor shall be permitted to use the school district's property. And then go to, sorry, I don't have my highlighted one. Can I borrow your highlighted? So to remove, unless such is use identified in approved scholarship agreement or approved in writing by the school district, remove that piece and say, unless approved in writing by the superintendent or designee. So remove after the parentheses about unless such use is identified in approved scholarship, remove that and replace it with unless approved in writing by the superintendent or designee.
Any other comments?
We do have a policy on using logos, mascots,
Yes,
all
we
that.
do.
I don't know if that needs to be addressed or you want to reference it or not. I don't know. You want, unless such use is identified in an approved scholarship agreement or approved in writing by the school district as outlined in Or
We
maybe
can-
we just use it as a reference at the end.
Yeah,
too.
we can put it as a reference at the end if that works. Thank you,
Yep.
because I did not,
I think it's 8, I wanna say it's 819 or 919, something like that.
yeah. Thank you.
Any other requests for changes? Okay, so back to your question. Mrs. Hobbs had asked if the committee works and comes up with a definition for naming property, naming opportunity. Can we allow that to be added and move this forward to first read for September?
That's fine.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Okay. All right, let me get caught up here. Courtney, we're ready for 109, if you are. Okay, so.
Just make it clear which option you're on, so I know what paper we're on.
I'll leave to Mr. Alden that task. All right, so if we back up, again, for the benefit of anyone viewing this on YouTube today, back in May, we had two options for 109. You'll see there's option 1 and option 2. So when the committee met in May, we had those two options, and a majority of the committee chose option 2 to move to first read. Option 2, so that you remember, parallels 109.1, which was media materials. Okay, so that we have a connection here, and most of the language in option 2 mirrors option for 109.1. So, at that May meeting, one of the board members suggested that it would be good to hear what the teachers thought about the policy. We moved option 2 to first read in May, and that would have gone to first read in June. The Upper Adams Education Association put together a survey and surveyed their members as well as other members of the bargaining unit, and they were all welcome to reply about their concerns and interests in 109. That was presented to us, and I want to thank the association officers for doing that. That came out in June, and so at the June meeting, we decided that we would table 109 back to committee today so that the committee had an opportunity to review what the teachers had provided. So that's where we are now. I think we had a really good discussion in June. The whole board was available, and there were some interesting comments made, and Dr. Bell, Mr. Alden also got together, and they came up with an option 2A, which is what you will see. And so as Courtney says, if you look there, we have the existing 109. We have 109 option 1, 109 option 2, and Mr. Alden is going to address option 2A, which tried to merge what was said by the board as well as what the Teachers Association came up with. So I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
All right.
And I want to thank you all for everything that you've done to try to get this to the finish line.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraus. All right, so we're going to take a little journey through this policy jungle we have here. If your folder's in front of you, if you could open those up. For those that are online, all the board members and the committee members have folders of all paper copies of all the policies as well as teacher concerns and a questionnaire that was asked of the association about how the teacher concerns were collected. So I'm going to walk you through your folder first. So the first two items that should be on top are the teacher concerns and the response from the association. Because when we got the teacher concerns, there were some board members that were asking, well, how did they collect the teacher concerns?
Both items are together.
Oh, both,
I've stapled those items
Gotcha.
together, they're not
Right.
separate, just so that it stayed with the teacher comments.
Gotcha.
So you're not confused.
Mine are separate, sorry. And the teacher comments are not attached to the public agenda for this reason until this committee decides you are okay with that. Because the comments were provided to Dr. Bell per our request through the board, and then Dr. Bell provided them to the board. So it was never a public document. If you wish, this group decides that it should be attached, it's a click of a button, we can do that. But that's why this is not attached publicly yet. And that's your decision to make down the road. So these two are here for your reference. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about those at the moment, but they're here for you to refer to. One is how they were able to get the information for the questions, and then the second page is about how or what the responses actually were. So if you want, the rest of these are policies. So you should have option 1, and if you want to lay them across, that's kind of what I do to keep my head straight because it needs help from time to time. So you have option 1, and then you have another packet that has the word draft on top. Okay. So these two items, what you're looking at is Dr. Bell and I created an option 1 with the administrative guidelines. So it was taking the main points out of 109.1, putting them into option 1, but a lot of the detailed procedural nitty-gritty items from 109.1 that we wanted to include in 109 were kept under administrative guidelines. And that was so we could easily modify them if needed down the road if something wasn't working or we wanted to expand on something or remove something. That would not require a whole rewrite of policy option 1. This policy and the administrative guidelines, although very well crafted, I don't believe had the support of the committee when we last met. So that was kind of pushed off to the side for me. And we went ahead to the next item that's in your folder, which was option 2. Option 2 is what went to the board for consideration. This basically mirrored 109.1. And that was the request of some of the committee members that when we looked at 109, just mirror 109.1, change out media center for classroom resources and make sure it sounded okay, but it pretty much was we were asked to make it identical as much as possible. So that's what we did. This policy raised concerns. If you look back at your reference sheet for your teacher concerns, that's where those came from. And the main 2 items on here that were a concern from the teachers' side of things was that inventory request and the opt-in, opt-out piece. So I was very pleased to hear the discussion at the last board meeting. I thought there were it was very productive, and I felt the board members were hearing from the teachers, so I wanted to meet with the teachers as well to make sure they were on board as well and they could see your side. And I did meet with Mrs. McCarney and Allison, the PSEA rep, and shared what I came up with, which I hope and I believe is a compromise and a win-win for this committee and for the teachers, and just will kind of meet both needs and help everyone move forward in this. So 2A is what I would like to share with you, and then once I'm done sharing, we can get feedback from the committee. Just before I go into that, the last item is the original. This is what's on the books right now. This is the original policy that's in here, if you need to refer to that. So basically, I'm not changing anything in option 2 but 3 areas. So essentially, it will be 109.1, the large majority, but the items of contention, I massaged a little bit. So if you page ahead to the 3rd page, and there'll be gold at the top. And I'm going to paraphrase here. You certainly can read word for word. This had ensure an inventory of classroom resources. In my professional opinion, I don't think this is a reasonable request for a classroom teacher. Classroom resources can constantly change with media, with online resources. The amount of books some teachers have that can range from 100 to, I have a teacher that has like 6,000 books in her room. Literally, it's not an exaggeration. There are well over 6,000 in her room. There's book rooms at the elementary level. There's many areas that have like magazines, pamphlets, could be videos, DVDs. All classroom resource material encompasses a lot. And that's why you're feeling the pushback from the teachers, and to their credit, rightfully so. You can imagine how they're feeling with the time and the effort it's going to take to accomplish this.
But that was in the original. So how was that accomplished before? It was in the original policy 109.
And that was for textbooks. That's how we handled that. That is what we're using, classroom resources. That was the textbooks. This would be all classroom resources.
Because it has the same language, it just says resource materials.
So you're basically saying, in the past, it was always textbooks.
Textbooks,
but
yeah. When
now-
textbooks were approved, we keep a running record of those.
So
This
that-
would be expanded to
Right,
everything, because the interpretation of 109.1, when we did that for the media center, was everything in the library. So this would be everything in the classroom.
so
Well,
these,
it had a definition there before. I mean, it said maps, library books, software, all other instructional material. It didn't specify that was just textbooks. I'm just pointing out that this language here, inventory of resource materials, was not added by us.
Right.
That was there before.
Correct. So to paraphrase what this language is sharing is the guidelines are in this policy. They're here. This is saying we trust the teachers to follow those guidelines, and we expect them to make sure everything in their classrooms are following those guidelines, all the classroom resources. If it comes to our attention by a student, by a parent, by a community member, whoever, that it does not follow these guidelines, or a teacher decides it's not following the guidelines, we're going to pull that and evaluate it. The principal will get involved, teacher will get involved, and it's an easier piece here, because at the library you have lots of challenges that you can go through because it's available to the entire student body down there. Here, as I gave the example at the board meeting, in my personal classroom library as a 6th grade teacher, I remember the book Jurassic Park. Had some language in there. That was the biggest thing, mainly. It was some inappropriate language, and it was brought to my attention. You can make the case either way for it, but it was just music. I just took it. It was no longer in my library. And that was a book that I had inherited, which so many teachers do. When teachers retire, the new teacher comes in, and there's a library there. So that teacher obviously may not have the time to read and go through every single book there, but as things are brought to their attention, it's easily removed. Same with the principal. We can easily remove it. We're not banning it. It's just no longer part of the library. Oh yeah, it has language in, it has a sexual content in, excessive profanity. We can easily pull it if we feel it, after review, it doesn't meet the guidelines. So that's the first piece. So there's not this pressure of an inventory and getting things approved by the board as far as general classroom resources. But the board is saying, teacher, the expectation is you need to follow these guidelines. And if something in your room does not follow the guidelines, you need to correct that, with the help of your principal.
And if I'm correct,
Mhm.
Joe, when we
Yes.
hire a new teacher, you sit down with them and go over everything, and this
Yep.
would be part of that.
Yes. And just Tuesday afternoon, we had Gareth Pahaka come in, and he addressed the entire Adams County new teachers and went through 3 hours of ethics, professional ethics with them, and this obviously was covered. The code of ethics, what the boundaries, all kinds of different scenarios. So, yep. If you flip ahead to the next one, so it's 1, 2. There are 2 additional items on here. One is really of not consequence. It was more a clarification. Dr. Bell and I, the donation part, we just wanted to put that phrase, including those donations approved by the board, in there. And we had some typos and things we wanted to fix there, and added the word donations. So the next piece at the bottom addresses 2 areas. One is that opt-in, opt-out concern. So the concern on the teacher side was, again, time and effort. They were concerned, because the interpretation of this is any novel, any resource, anything like that, something needs to go home every time they're going to start a new novel, anytime they're going to show a DVD that helps support some classroom content, or use a magazine, or use a newspaper, that type of thing. We would have to get an opt-in. So a compromise, talking with Mrs. Graham, talking with the teachers, syllabus, go home, the syllabi, if the plural form of that, for grades 7 through 12 in particular. There are some teachers, yes, that may not do that as a current practice, but that by and large, most courses and content areas send home a syllabus. This would require all teachers, grades 7 through 12, at the beginning of their course, to send home a syllabus that outlines the resources they plan to use to teach that course. And at the bottom of that syllabus, or in some fashion, to the effort as much as possible, we're going to get a signature back from the parent that they have read that, they agree with those resources, they understand those resources will be used, and that will come back. That practice is already in place for some courses. There are some courses that just send the syllabus home and don't require a signature, and there are some courses that don't have a syllabus. They may have one, but it's not shared formally like that. This would make it a formalized process where 7 through 12, every parent for every course can expect a syllabus to go home, or email, or however, somehow communicated, and then they get communicated back with a signature or permission to use those resources. If we don't get those back, the teachers will continue to seek the signatures and contact the parents. If after an extensive effort we cannot get the parents to, lack of a better word, cooperate and provide that permission, then it will be assumed that we're going to move ahead. But every effort will be made to get that signature back, just like every other form at the beginning of the year, whether it's a health form, demographic sheet, whatnot.
Joe,
Mhm.
do you have a rough idea when that goes out, the opt-in, like what percentage of parents, boom, it's signed and in? Is that 50, is it 75, is it?
I would say the large majority. I would say, just based on my experience, probably 25%. You're probably going to have to really
Okay.
go after, email, harass a little bit to get.
Because I don't recall ever signing a syllabus. I mean, there wasn't anything on there for me to sign.
Yeah, I think that was my question. I don't know if we signed it.
Yeah, I don't
Is
sign
that
it.
asking too much of the teachers to have to track down the signatures, or we're requiring the teachers now to provide a syllabus, which is great, and it's up to the parents and the students to respond back.
Mhm.
But here's the syllabus. We're telling you up front. Do we have to sign off on that?
I'm just saying, I mean,
Yeah.
that certainly wasn't in place before. I mean, I
No,
don't
not
recall signing one.
not school-wide. The reason I proposed the signature was because I thought I heard from the committee that an opt-in
Right.
Mhm.
was a priority. So I was trying to meet the committee's needs as well as make it feasible for the teachers as well, so they're not sending forms home constantly all year long every time they need to write another or read another book or use another film or whatnot. Yep, yes.
I guess in my vision of the opt-in process, first of all, it's gonna mostly just deal with sexually explicit books, you know, those types of books,
Mhm.
which would not really be, should be either removed out of any kind of a teaching sort of scenario, or if it has been granted an exception, wouldn't necessarily be used in a required teaching scenario, but might be in the library if the teacher would maybe want to refer a kid to that. In that instance, if the teacher was referring the kid, like for instance, The Kite Runner, which apparently I have yet to read, but I want to read, but is supposedly an excellent book, wouldn't maybe be suitable for a required reading assignment where every kid in the classroom is going to be reading it and discussing it and that kind of stuff. But if the teacher felt like this student is mature enough and had an interest in that kind of topic, they could refer the kid. It would be in their kind of like reserved library in their classroom that wouldn't be easily accessible. And at that point in time, an opt-in form would be sent home to the parent saying, Johnny would really love to read this book, The Kite Runner. However, you know, there could be sensitive topics in this book. Could you do your research and please give us permission to do it? That's how I was envisioning
Okay.
the opt-in
But
form
that's
to work.
definitely what you would think would be less frequent. That's not a
Right.
constant.
Right.
And it would be
opting in
specific to
form.
work and really only specific to books who have already received an exception. Because outside of the exceptions, there really shouldn't be anything in the classroom that would be being taught that would be necessarily needing an opt-in form.
Correct.
You know, that's how I was envisioning it to work. Because it
And that's-
still gives the parent then the ability to know what their kid is going to be reading, and ultimately it comes down to them being okay with that. You know?
Although I do agree that it is a good idea to have the syllabi, because we did not, I did not have that
Right.
before in 7th and 8th
Right.
grade available to me. So I'm not sure that you necessarily need signature
Okay.
on it,
That-
but
that-
I think that's something.
if we're getting that information out, or it's available online, I don't know if that's an option too.
Mhm.
I think we would be overloading the
That's
teachers
positive.
to require signatures for every syllabus to come back. I think that's too
No,
much.
and I don't
But if
think
we-
that's what
but
you're
if-
saying.
No, but if you provide a syllabus for every classroom, every course, whatever, like here it is, to your point, then the parents need to come back and say, well, I would really like my child to read or not to read this book. That's
Yeah,
probably
and-
the opt-in, but they're given everything up front. Here it is, here's the syllabus, to your point, here are all the books.
But
You
we're
know-
also going under the standing that, as she said, if we have these guidelines in place, there are not going to be books on
Shouldn't have
that
to be
syllabus.
correct. There should not be correct. So we're trusting the
Would be
teachers,
concerned.
we're trusting the teachers to say, you're following the guidelines, but you shouldn't have to have a signature from every parent
That's right.
accepting it because you're following the guidelines. So I think that eliminates some of the work on the teachers.
I'm very pleased with that.
Provide upfront the
Yeah.
syllabus,
Yes.
because we expect you to follow these guidelines and then move on. And
Yeah.
If parents have a problem, then they can come back, need to come back, I think.
Yeah, we already gave.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maria. Sorry.
Yeah. I just, as I'm looking, I've taught AP English before, and usually there's a wide list of books that teachers can choose from. I have a concern that if a student wants to enroll in AP and the teacher wants to use sexually explicit material or choose one of those books from the wider list, then the student might not have the opportunity to pursue AP because of the sexually explicit material. So I think going back, the expectation should be that for required reading, the general guidelines should be followed, and then the teacher can apply for a special exception on an individual basis for an opt-in.
Well, I think that's
I think that's what
addressed
we're
in the
saying.
paragraph ahead there with AP courses. I think we address in that paragraph right above it that there are advanced placement courses that might require
And that, in
some of
those
these, but
cases.
we're still
yeah,
following the
teacher.
guidelines.
Yes.
But you're in advanced placement class for a reason, and you're more, I won't say more mature, but potentially you're a 17, 18-year-old student.
So I have a question. In advanced placement, if there's required reading, is that like a class reading, like the class reads all the same book? Like the whole class is reading the whole same book?
They could, yeah, I would say.
Or is
yes.
it like they get to choose a book to do a report on or read or discuss.
I think it's both.
Yeah, you could have either one. I would say large majority, sometimes they have required novels and they would use those, but yeah, there may be some times that they're self-selected.
Because I do feel even in the AP classes, that if it's a required reading where the whole entire class is required to read the same book, it still would need to fall under those,
Correct.
The guidelines for
Opt-in.
explicit
Yep.
material. Now, if it's an individual report and the teacher feels like this kid could handle, say, the kite runner, at that point in time, the parent would still need to be on board with that, because that's where the opt-in form would come in, and that would be sent home, but it wouldn't be like, per se, taught to the entire class,
Mhm.
I mean, that's how I'm envisioning it, so.
I think we're just gonna bog down every
Right.
teacher that collects these forms to sign in for every syllabus and every.
No, I don't think we're
Classroom
wanting it
material.
for the syllabus. I think we're wanting it for a specific work,
Yeah.
which should
Which
Yeah,
would
perhaps
only
I could
increase
offer,
section. Oh, go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry for interrupting. This is Lauren speaking. I really support that opt-in form concept. And I believe that the responsibility for knowing the content of classroom materials should be on the teachers and on the school, not on the parents. That would be my conclusion. I am opposed, in other words, to an opt-out form.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it needs to be opt-in and based on, I think what we're saying here, it should be infrequent. It doesn't have to
Right.
be on a syllabus being signed. It should
Right.
be related to a
Yeah,
particular
because that would be very
resource.
overwhelming to try to
Excellent.
track them all down and get,
Get the syllabus,
Yeah.
all that
Right.
stuff. I
I
think.
mean, I do agree that it's a good idea to have the
Yeah.
syllabus out there. We
Mm.
should be getting all the information, but I don't think
Yeah.
that requires.
Awesome. That's
I mean,
fantastic.
that's my opinion.
I mean, I think this would be
I
a
think that's a win for the
win
teachers.
for the teachers, and it's a win for the policy, right? Here's our policy, follow these guidelines, and we expect you to follow these guidelines, but we're not asking you to collect 1,000 signatures,
No.
whatever it's gonna be. to
No,
come
that
back
was
to
never
Brooke.
the intention.
Here's the
Yeah.
syllabus up front, here it is, and if you have an issue with it, then we can talk.
Right, because if they're following these guidelines, it should
Correct.
right.
be
And the
less of an issue.
exceptions have to be put through the administration, am I correct in that? Like if the teacher's seeking an exception
I
for a
believe so.
particular book, that has to go through a process.
There's a process. that
Yes,
needs
Yeah.
I
to
think it
identify.
is outlined.
Yeah.
in here.
And then at that point in time, that's where the opt-in form would
Right.
come into play.
So is there any language that you would like to see, or maybe Mrs. Kraus, you want to take it from here and facilitate? I mean, that's up to you.
In terms of language for that paragraph, it'd be a
I mean, wait, I didn't put in the word signature in here. I used the word acknowledged. Acknowledgement and understanding regarding the resources, which that could be interpreted as sending home, you're emailing it or sending it home.
Well, I think there is where we need to be more clear
Okay.
then,
Mhm.
that there needs to be a specific opt-in form and, what language should be included on that opt-in form.
Possibly something like in in special circumstances.
Yeah, for books that have exceptions.
And who decides what book has an exception?
Well, I would imagine, the way I would envision this working would be, say, a teacher would want to have the
Use
book,
Kite
The
Runner.
Kite Runner, in their library. They would then bring that to the principal, I believe, and the superintendent, and they would then look at that book and determine if that book would warrant an exception. Then if it does, if they determine that it does, then that would be presented to the board.
Be on a list for approval.
Right, for that, to give the board chance to review the book. And then if it is granted an exception, then that teacher could have it in their library, not necessarily easily accessible to every student, but would be a referral book that they could refer, and then that would be when the opt-in form would take place. Because then the parent ultimately would have the determination if their student would read that book or not.
I guess I just struggle.
Yeah, Heather, Heather is correct. I'm looking at areas of potential controversy, page 4 of option 2, and it specifically endorses exactly what Heather just spoke about. And, I could read one sentence here. The district will provide a form for the purpose of documenting exceptions, which will include signed approval from the classroom teacher, school principal, and district superintendent or designate.
I'm not saying that I disagree. I mean, we have beat this for months and months and months. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Who decides, and it goes back to a conversation we probably had a year ago, who decides what is sexually explicit? And I don't want to drum this all up again. I'm just saying, like, in the instance of the Kite Runner, it's one page, and it's not what the book is about. So, you know, what, and maybe in a teacher's head, they would know. They would say, oh, here's this one page, I've got to,
Is that one
I've got to
page
see.
sexually explicit?
It is,
Okay, well
but
then,
it's,
but that's where the
I
exception.
was,
but,
I was
but
2
it's
pages.
one page
hold
out
on,
of,
I was 2 pages past that before I realized what happened.
Exactly.
It was not sexually explicit.
exactly. That's my point.
But it could still be traumatizing. It doesn't matter how many pages
but
it
then you're-
is.
but-
It's sexually explicit according to the definition of the policy.
But I
It
think
doesn't
we're-
matter if it's one word. I mean, if I said the N word right now out loud, but that's just one word,
But I
would
think
that
we're-
be permissible just because it's one word?
I think we're losing the point. Like,
Yeah,
in
I'm
that
sorry.
book, it's
I brought it
an
up.
advanced placement class
done
that
that.
are mature and they know that they're in that setting.
Right,
And
They
and we have,
chose
and we
that,
tr-
yeah.
and they chose that, and we trust the teachers. I mean,
Right.
if you're in that classroom, it's 17, 18-year-olds. They're more mature to be able to handle that, but you also have the option to.
but that's kind of the beautiful
not be-
thing about getting an exception, because that's where, yes, it does fall under the definition of sexually explicit. However, the book is an amazing book, so I would like to get an exception for this book. So then it would go to the principal, it would go to the superintendent. They would determine at that point in time whether it would fall, how it would relay, does the merits of the book outweigh that one page? And then it would be brought, I think, twice a year. I think the board would get a list of books that were granted exceptions that we could then purview. But ultimately, it should come down to the parent about what's sexually explicit or not, and that's where the opt-in form is. That book would then require an opt-in form because it had an exception. That opt-in form would then go home to the parent. The parent could then do their research on the book, and ultimately, the parent gets to decide, is this book okay for my kid to read or not?
I agree 100% with what you just said. I'm just looking out for a teacher who may choose this book and it never entered his or her mind that, oh, I should have gotten a permission for this because the whole book is not about this page. This book is so much bigger and it's such a learning tool. And I just want to make sure our teachers are protected, that they're not using
Right.
something in their libraries that they should have received an opt-in for.
Well,
Just
and that's where the
that's my only
definitions-
point.
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
that's where the definitions
Agree.
come from.
Well, I think you have the definitions, and the teacher is protected by the minute,
Right.
back to the guidelines, to the superintendent, to the principal. And like you said, then their teacher's also protected by twice a year, we're gonna get the list, and so I think if they follow the guidelines, the teachers are.
And they're
are
protected because they inform the parent.
Right.
So if the parent signs the opt-in form, says yes, and then they come back and say, whoa, I didn't know that was in the book. Well, you had your chance
Right.
Yeah.
to read the book and to know, and you gave us permission.
Well,
So the teachers are protected then.
they're also protected by the syllabus, because they
Right.
told them right up front, here it is. And it's up to, and I'm sorry, but it's up to the parents also.
Yeah, and you look at a syllabus, it's going to list required materials for a whole class.
But we're also now suggesting that there shouldn't be required materials on there that would not meet the guidelines. So I
Exactly.
feel
Right.
like
That's
it
correct.
should be less, I mean, it really
Right.
should be infrequent.
Yeah.
And the thing that I was sitting here trying to remember from 109.1, I recall when there was a discussion about how books were selected for the library, there was a discussion of there could be profane language, but is that overpowering the whole book? I mean, that was a year or so ago, that, you know, that was the discussion, that you have to look at the book as a whole and not that one page. And if there are merits for the book, then it should get that exception.
Right.
And I feel like we've
I
covered all
appreciate
the
what I just
bases.
heard from Mrs. Blank. I really honor the use of the word exception. Exception, yeah. Not that this is not a frequent pathway that we have to go down. It should be a rare pathway that relates to borderline books. Infrequent is the word that I was referring to.
Right, so I think maybe just language needs to be added, you know, with regard to still, you know, an opt-in, if, and maybe the language is, you know, if it has met an exception, then there is the opt-in.
I can add a sentence to that end of that second paragraph.
But I think we have to go back to, here are the guidelines. We
But
have
I
to
just-
trust the teachers, right? Now the teachers have clear guidelines. We trust that they're gonna follow these, and let's move on.
Mr. Weigel, if I could just interject, I think too, it does come down to your point, Solomon, and everyone's point. I mean, there's an element of professionalism and common sense, and realizing that, yes, there's stuff out there, but also knowing that something may slip by, something could get by, all right? But we have checks and balances in place for us. That's why we have an evaluation system, that's why we have principals, that's why we have teachers, that's why we have teams and departments together to have these conversations, which are all in myself. We have these checks and balances in place. And if something does arise, then we certainly want to address it and follow through with it, all right? But yeah, we need to measure it up to specific guidelines with the understanding of, and we've had the conversation, a number of you know, like, I'm reading a biographical piece on Vietnam. I guarantee you there's going to be the use of the F word in that book. Do I want my fifth grader to be listening to that? Absolutely not. But do I believe a junior or senior in the context of what that's all about? Yeah, so again, it's common sense, professionalism, and the checks and balances we have in place, you know, to measure this all up against. You know, so.
I have a clarification in regards to advanced placement in college and the high school, dual enrollment, those types of things, where many times the resources that we are to use are prescribed to us to meet whatever entity we're trying to give the students credit in. There may be options like Mrs. Jalal shared, but if there's not options and they give us the required reading, is this committee okay, since you approved the course through the course selection guideline, are you okay if we send the syllabus home and do require a signature for that?
Yes.
For those courses, and you're okay that is then seen as an opt-in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then at that point in time, that is the parent's responsibility
That's right.
to do the research and know. So.
Because I think
Yeah.
everything else will be infrequent and, you know, very sporadic for the regular classroom. But for those courses, I think signing that syllabus, and if you're okay with that being an overarching opt-in, I think that's appropriate for those specific courses.
Now, how? Oh,
Good.
Always disagree.
Yeah, I
How-
was just gonna say, I think with the understanding and the caveat that these are the core resources
Yeah.
and core things that teachers will be utilizing throughout their course. The caveat is, yes, I may have gone to Gettysburg this weekend and found this really great article, or I might have watched a great History Channel documentary where I'm gonna show a snippet on General Grant or whatever, that it's not on the syllabus, but that I can still, as a teacher, still interject or infuse that into a course, because it's a teachable one that came up, and wow, this is and again, measuring it still up to our rubric and guidelines of it meets the criteria for, you know, the course, and it's not like vulgar or, you know, pornographic or whatever, but the teacher can still have that
Absolutely.
freedom to do that. And I think
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
important, I think, because we want to give teachers, again, still a checks and balance system, you know, like, you know, but still they are able to do that.
Yeah, so I still think that to add here that there, it needs to be specific, that if there is an exception, that the opt-in form and what that opt-in form should include, because that, I think that's what this is missing. Like, I don't think we need this opt-out language, they don't need to sign the syllabus, but I do think if you've determined that it has met an exception, that is when this opt-in language is relevant.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm just, so we can say for books that have exceptions, an opt-in form will be required for the student to be able to participate in that activity or lesson.
Could I ask for clarification? I just want to make sure, in agreement with what everyone has said about the opt-in. So the opt-out, so if the syllabus goes home and let's just say a book like Harry Potter is on it, then a parent, I mean, some people might think it's fine, some parents might not want their children to read that, and so then they have the option to opt out at that point.
Yes, that's what the second paragraph
Yeah.
basically is saying, yes.
Correct.
And we would provide another alternative at that point.
Okay.
So my question that I was gonna ask is, in the case of advanced
Mhm.
placement, and there is a book on the syllabus that that was prescribed
Yes.
by an outside source that violates the guidelines that we have. So if it's required reading in the class, and a parent would decide they don't want their kid to read that, then how does that affect that child in the classroom then? Is if they can't be in discussion or, you know?
They
I'm
would
not
have
sure.
to have a conversation probably with the class, with that teacher, the parent, or perhaps the school principal, assistant principal, and determine if there's any flexibility with that, or if there's no flexibility and they're at a kind of a stalemate, they need to make that decision whether they're willing to move forward with that or
Okay.
not. Because
Okay.
some have some flexibility, but some entities say, no, you want our credit, so you must use these materials.
So the college in the classroom
Yes.
might have firm required books.
Yes.
And
Okay,
if a parent says, I don't want my child to read it, that child may not be able to
do that
take that
class.
course.
just-
at
yeah.
all.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's
Okay.
just gonna have to be how it is.
Right,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good to me. I just wasn't sure how that all played out. Okay.
In Ms. McCover, some folks do like something, literature circles, for example, like so a teacher could potentially have 4 novels being read in a classroom at one time.
Mhm.
So this group might be, but along the same theme.
You're
you
right.
know. So there could be the potential of that student could potentially read this other book, or that maybe
Right.
there's a group of 3 or 4 kids who are reading that book. So
Okay.
they're still being engaged or participating in the theme or overarching conversations, but not reading that specific book.
Gotcha.
So that's like another potential alternative.
Okay.
you know.
I love that.
And the final piece was on the very last page. We just took out, it will be effective beginning 25-26, since when this policy gets approved, we will already be into the year. So simply, this will be treated like any other policy. Once it's approved, and it'll be enacted at that point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
The only other question, and this is a very basic one, instead of using, I think we used the word insure, should it be E-N-S-U-R-E instead of I-N-S-U-R-E?
She's back on.
Oh, see, he had it on his too, so yes.
I just,
Yes, that is correct. That is a good observation. Yes, it should be changed.
Page 2.
Page 2.
Yeah, sorry. 2 on
it's
option
actually in a
2A.
couple
Yeah.
of the,
In the
Oh, sorry, I
gold,
was
the
looking
very
at option
first
2,
word
but
in
yeah.
the second.
Right here where it
That's what it's
says
still looking.
insured.
It's in the
It's-
first,
it's
the second
here.
word
It's
in the
under-
gold.
It's up here,
Selection
it's the
Oh,
other
in
one.
gold. Okay.
Oh, I-N. you
There
want
we
the-
go.
oh.
Yep. That made the difference, the gold. I was able to find it right away.
Oh, I have
Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay.
Right, I had another, I
E,
had
E,
another one,
yes,
but I
yep.
forgot
Yep.
if that's still here. all turned around.
Oh, there's one in, right here, there's one here. There's one on-
Anywhere.
Just do a search.
So just
Anywhere it
for-
says
just for
I-
clarity,
just make it
I
plain.
N, make it E N.
Ensure, E-N,
Yeah.
means to make certain or something
Yes.
or guarantee an outcome, while insure refers to protecting against financial risk, usually through an insurance policy,
There's
so.
one here.
Right, yeah, so all of those places,
Anywhere it says I N,
Insure.
yes.
insure, it should be E N. Yeah, just change them all to E
And then
N.
I also wanted to suggest, right in that same area, it was number 5, I think it's number 5 on both. Can include. So when we say policy 109 pertains to classroom and resource materials that can include a teacher's personal library, I mean, I would suggest saying that it includes a teacher's personal library or including a teacher's personal library.
The very last
In
sentence.
a sense, that would remove the word can. Is that correct, Mrs. Glenn?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm lost.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Number 5, under the goal.
It's number 5,
Under the
right
goal,
where
got
we-
it. Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry, I mean, I was working
Got it.
off of 2, and then you guys had 2A, and I know it's slightly
All
different.
right.
So just take out can, but include.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
There's two-
yeah,
there's
make it
two.
more
There
affirming.
are too many, geesh.
And I just wanted to share, I thank the committee for their open-mindedness, they're willing to see different perspectives, and I also thank the teachers as well for, hearing the board's point of view and hearing the board's perspective and us being able to come together and
Yeah.
get a policy everyone, can work with.
Are there any other requests for changes?
Don't ask.
Well,
Come on, Ms.
so
Kraus.
Move to adjourn, Mrs. Kraus.
I
I'm
don't think
almost
so.
there,
I think
so
we got
just to
this.
clarify,
Move to adjourn.
for, not yet. No, where is this gavel? So to clarify, Mr. Albin, to come back in September, you would be revising that section about,
I'm gonna add one sentence in the second paragraph there about the exceptions.
we're talking about in option 2A about
Yes,
the
2A.
syllabuses and the signed syllabi and things like that, okay.
Can we keep, in option 2, the language of the opt-in form?
Wait,
Can
which
we-
one are you talking about?
That would be in option 2, it's not in
It's the
option
opt-in
2A.
language, it's the option,
All right.
opt-in language.
So do you want, I can add that, yeah, I could say for books that have exceptions, an opt-in form will be required and must include, and then I'll use that language?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Okay, so at this point, if that's the changes, I think we do need to see them in September at the next committee meeting. The last thing that I have to ask, when we go back to the document from the association, Mr. Albin mentioned it wasn't made public because it had just been shared with board members, or committee members, basically, I think. So I guess at this point, how does the committee feel about sharing the document that was provided by the association? Do you want, can you make that public? That's the direction to Mr. Albin. How do you feel about that?
I don't really have it.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other, to be honest.
I really don't either. Is there harm in?
Danielle, do you, from the teacher's perspective, do you have a concern?
I don't think so,
Yeah.
no, it's just our question.
Right.
I know there were some requests to look at it after the previous board meeting, and I wasn't able to share it because I knew it had only been shared privately. So, we're in agreement that it could be posted to the agenda?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it shows
that
that
public.
we work together.
Yeah.
I truly appreciate that they took the initiative to do that. I really do.
Agreed.
Any other comments? So since Mr. Weigel's all ready to go, I'd like to please.
Good job, Mr. Waddle.
Joe, do you know how to end that? Good job.
And Mrs. Kraus. And Joe. Holy smokes.
And Courtney, it's a team effort.
Yeah, I'll say.